All City Network here at the winter meetings in San Diego, California, where we finally got the verdict we've all been waiting for. Aaron Judge back to the New York Yankees, 10-year deal, making a couple bucks.
A few, at least a couple.
You surprised? Did you always think he was going back to the New York Yankees, Ryan, or was there a shot that he was possibly going to go to the San Francisco Giants?
See, I understood the rumors of the Giants, and the Giants were definitely invested and were ingrained in that discussion. But I've remained pretty steadfast since the beginning that Aaron Judge was going to stay in New York. I didn't see him leave. I mean, I guess I could see a scenario where he left. I just didn't see a scenario where the Yankees let him leave. So I knew in the end, Brian Cashman, they were going to pony up. They were going to pay Aaron Judge, kind of what he earned this past season. He bet on himself, and it worked out to the tune of $360 million, $40 million average.
62 home runs will do that, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Huh?
Average annual value, $40 million. I think that's a record, if I'm not mistaken, for a position player at least. And I to your original question, this is kind of what I expected. I expected the Yankees to do what they needed to do to keep him in New York.
I was beginning to have my doubts, Jesse, and we also learned that the San Diego Padres were in on him as well, offered up 10 years, $400 million, again, going over the final contract that Trey Turner had received from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Judge got more from the San Diego Padres. You happy about this or not so much coming from the NL West standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, the San Diego Padres just continue to throw money everywhere, right? And I think we have to be prepared that the San Diego Padres probably aren't done trying to throw money everywhere, right? It wasn't just Trey Turner, as you mentioned, $40 million over the final offer that he ultimately accepted with the New York Yankees on Aaron Judge. So yeah, I mean, the Padres, I think they're probably going to be in on Correa and Bogaerts and continue to try to spend that money. But yeah, from an NL West standpoint, I mean, so far, so good, right? The Dodgers and the Padres haven't landed any of the big fish just yet, but I have a feeling that San Diego is probably going to get one of these offers accepted here at some point.
If they throw enough money, like if they keep throwing $40 million over what other teams are offering, they'll get one offered eventually.
Yeah.
This is now twice. This is now twice that they've done that.
$40 million.
The vibes may not be quite right in San Diego. Exactly.
And the Judge one felt like they actually, I mean, unless word just didn't leak out that they were in this entire time, but it did feel like very last minute they kind of hopped in and were like, here's $400 million, Aaron Judge. Obviously he didn't accept it, but if they have $400 million to offer to Aaron Judge, they have a lot of money to offer to other players that are still on the market, right? Like Jesse said, they're not done as far as what I can see, as far as what it appears. So I guess we just have to wait and see who eventually accepts one of those offers.
Do either of you have concern about Judge's, being a little bit older, obviously getting this decade-long deal? Or, again, is that just the nature of the beast when you have these long-term deals with these superstar players, is that you pay for them now and you worry about that money later on the back end of the deal later? It's just the business of the game.
I mean, they're the freaking New York Yankees, right? Like, I don't think they're too concerned about this, right? And that's why I've always felt that the New York Yankees were ultimately going to be the team that came away from with Aaron Judge, because when Aaron Judge is 38, 39 years old, is he going to hit 62 home runs? Probably not. But he is a super athlete, right? This isn't just a guy who's a masher at the plate. He also can play a pretty decent center field somehow, despite being 6'7". Like he's just an animal as an athlete, right? And so I think even though, his build is something that we don't really see in Major League Baseball that often, I think he does have a chance to age relatively well. But at the end of the day, the New York Yankees couldn't afford to let Aaron Judge walk. And I think every team that dishes out, a 9-year, 10-year contract does so acknowledging that in those last few years, you're probably going to be overpaying the guy. But that's just, as you said, that's just the nature of the beast. It's something you have to be okay with if you're going to dish out one of these contracts.
Yeah, the Judge, obviously the biggest piece on the offensive side. Pitching market has been moving quite consistently. Of course, Cubs getting Jamison Tyon. We know Taijuan Walker to the Philadelphia Phillies, signing a nice little deal. Wilson Contreras does sign with the St. Louis Cardinals, so Cubs need to find a new solution behind the plate here going forward, of course. But the rest of the market now for some of the offensive players, the smaller guys have been taken off. Josh Bell, things of that nature. But Brandon Nimmo is now the next one for teams in the NL West to go after, right? Do the Giants now have to pivot and go after Brandon Nimmo? And how much does his market end up rising up to because of how much money that Aaron Judge make? Totally different players, but still at the same time, after Brandon Nimmo, there's a pretty precipitous drop off from the rest of the free agents that are available out there.
Yeah. I mean, another thing going back to Aaron Judge real quick is apparently Aaron Judge actually is making more money with the New York Yankees than he would have if he had taken a deal with the San Diego Padres because of the tax differences. So that's another factor there. But going back to what you were saying about some of the other guys who are now available in the market, I mean, there's still a few guys on the board. It's been a big day all the way around. The hot stove has been hot here on day 3 of the winter meetings. But yeah, I mean, there's still a few big names out there. And at this point, you're getting to the level where the supply and the demand equation is getting interesting, right? There are a lot of teams out there that are still looking for things, and there's not enough free agents to satisfy all of those needs. So this is where I think teams are really going to start ponying up and getting a little bit more desperate.
Yeah, and one of the things that I'm curious about, and we've talked about this on the PHNX, like the All City shows, Diamondbacks, Rockies. The trade market is very non-existent.
None.
Talking to Rick Hahn, the last few days here in San Diego at the winter meetings, and he kind of mentioned that he had said it previously that a lot of what the additions or what they were going to do as far as acquisitions was going to come via trade, and obviously they did sign Mike Clevenger, so that kind of went against the grain of what he said, but they were still committed to listening, being open-minded in that trade market. But nothing's happened. I like, as far as I can recall, no big trades have happened since we've been in San Diego. And so that's one of the things where as hot as the free agent market has been, and the big names are starting to come off the board, we haven't really heard much about the trades. And I'm wondering if that just solely has to do because teams are waiting to see where a lot of these free agents fall.
Yeah. With Judge not being off the board, I think that, again, reduces the options that are out there. As we said, Brandon Nimmo being that guy. But now maybe the market for Brian Reynolds picks up. So teams are saying, well, if you don't get Nimmo, now you got to get Reynolds. And maybe that starts some of the trade conversations. The Rockies made a trade. You didn't hear about the big Chad Smith for Jeff Criswell? Those are two human beings. And that is a trade that went down.
Fair enough.
The $300 plus million, of course, that Aaron Judge gets does make you think, again, with there not being quite as many larger free agents out there after Nimmo, does Carlos Correa, we've talked about this before at CHGO Cubs, does that mean Carlos Correa will get his $300 million? Does Bogaerts get 300, or are there still just questions for those guys on their own?
Yeah, I definitely think that the way the market's being set affects how everyone is going to get money. I mean, some of these pitchers are getting more money than were originally expected. Obviously, Trey Turner got more years and more money than was originally expected. So I think you can assume that a guy like Carlos Correa is looking for something in that range. Like now that Turner 11 years, $300 million, Carlos Correa is likely looking for something in that range. Don't know the specific numbers of what his asks are, but probably in that range somewhere, maybe 10 years, $300 million, something like that. But now that Aaron Judge, you guys mentioned Brandon Nimmo, now that Aaron Judge is getting $40 million a year, $360 million over 9 years, that for outfielders and teams that are desperate for outfielders, that probably raises the price a little bit for teams that need to go out and sign one of these guys. So it does. I think it does have a trickle down effect. I don't know specifically that it makes players feel like they have to sign quicker. It may make teams feel like they have to sign players quicker on the other side of that. But it definitely has a trickle down effect, I would assume, as far as the amount of money and years that players are getting on these contracts.
Yeah, I'm specifically thinking of Xander Bogaerts too. A lot of people had him for 6 or 7 years, maybe 170 million or something. Mm-hmm. But if Trey Turner's 11 and 300 million, I think Xander Bogaerts is going to get more than 170 or 180 because once a team goes out and gets Carlos Correa, there's going to be a whole line of teams that missed out on him, and that's going to really drive up the price on a Xander Bogaerts. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get possibly well north of 200 million at this point.
That's a lot of money. Going back to what you said about Aaron Judge making more money in New York than in California, of course, because of the tax. Do either of you have an issue with the fact that he took less money for the Players Association? So he took care of himself. He's making more money for that. But now he does not actually raise that bar for the rest of the Players Association quite as high as he could. So he signed the best deal for him, not the best deal overall for his union 1 year after we were in a lockout at this point.
I guess it makes sense. If you're able to get $40 million, maybe the union would like you to be able to get $40 million more dollars. I don't know that I take issue with it because, again, it is him And at the end of the day, you have to look out for yourself. Like you have to put yourself, your family, and the people around you first. So I understand why if you wanted to stay in New York, you would take that deal. I guess the players union, the Players Association may have a different idea of that and be like, damn, you could have taken that $40 million. You would have set the market even higher, right? I don't know, but
True.
I obviously respect Aaron Judge's decision to do what he felt was right and probably makes him more comfortable in the end.
Bold predictions for our teams here in the final 24 to 48 hours. Still got the Rule 5 draft going down at 2:30 Pacific Standard Time. Not going to be any major names in that. We know players like Shane Victorino and Yohan Santana have come out of that, so maybe we'll be proven wrong. But major predictions that will come out of this for the Colorado Rockies, major predictions, I think they will go out and make a trade to acquire a young starting pitcher, probably one that has less than 1 year of big league service time, similar to the Herman Marquez deal that they made back in January of 2016. That's what I think they've got going on before the winter meetings officially comes to the close. Diamondbacks, Cubs, let's get a quick hot take.
I don't think the Diamondbacks are going to do anything before the end. I mean, we've got like 24-ish hours remaining here at the winter meetings. Going in, I didn't really expect the Diamondbacks to make a move here. It's just a matter of, kind of getting the ball rolling on what a trade of one of their outfielders looks like. And I think they have made some progress on that front, but I don't see a deal coming in to fruition in the next 24 hours. Probably just not realistic.
So Xander Bogaerts is going to still be out there.
My hot take, the Cubs will not sign 2 shortstops. That's the hot take. Apparently, Cubs Twitter's running wild with it. So hot take, they will not sign 2 shortstops this offseason.
For more tepid takes from Ryan Herrera of CHGO Cubs or Jesse Friedman from PHNX Diamondbacks, I'm Patrick Lyons from DNVR Rockies. We're the All City Boys at All City Network here at the winter meetings. We'll be back if there's any more breaking news. Keep it tuned in to all of our respective channels on YouTube. We'll see you around.